on the Zone, brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Your SEC Insider Hit this morning is presented by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your car and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Favorites.com, F-A-V-E, favorites.com. And the big ones this weekend. Let's get into it real quick. Then we'll go into Mississippi State and Ole Miss. The big games are Florida at Utah Thursday night. You may get something. Maybe you'll get something with North Carolina and South Carolina at some point. I don't know if that does anything. South Carolina is kind of that boring, one of the boring teams in the SEC. And they're over in the East. They have taken advantage of that at times, as they should. Again, a much easier schedule. For those of you that are gambling, you'll get into Nebraska and Minnesota. That's another Power 5 matchup. And on Sunday, we have LSU and Florida State. And then Monday, we have Duke and Clemson. And I expect, Clemson to beat them by 1,000,000. So even with, some of the things that have happened at Duke the last year, which tend to be trending the right way after hiring the A&M defensive coordinator and had a good year last year. Let's see what. Oh, Michigan Steve says he found it odd that they didn't mention Gators losing the 2008 Capital One Bowl to Michigan after Tebow won the Heisman. Well, you wanted them to mention that. I get that as a Michigan Wolverine. But that wasn't one of the bigger stories for sure, as far as the Gators run. I guess it was that next year when they rebounded and Tebow won the national championship as the sole starter, not as a kind of, I don't know, Jason, how would you say, supplement to Chris Leak.
Yeah.
And the Florida Gators. So we're going to have Steve Robertson at 8:30 on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. And we will have Ron Fowler, 109 The Game, Tuscaloosa, at 9:30. I want to switch gears. I've got some audio for you. Something that we've talked about over the years is all the media spotlight on the Dallas Cowboys and their quarterback, whoever it is, especially if he's good. If he's not any good, then, Jason, I don't think it's as much juice there.
Right.
I mean, if he's Baker Mayfield, that's not fair. Let me walk that back. Baker Mayfield, in the grand scheme of things, all of us hanging out, is a phenomenal football player.
Yeah.
But, he's not a top 20 QB in the NFL, much less a top 10 QB in the NFL, and he's not going to really carry a franchise. Definitely not a franchise that's dysfunctional like Dallas. And so we've talked about it over the years. Anything Prescott does is scrutinized. And I watch the NFL Network every morning, so I know how many times this huge show out of New York, NFL owns it. Y'all get the drill. And I can't tell you how many times they lead with the Cowboys. Well, we've now had two big media personalities within the last week tell you what I've been saying and what I think most of you have known for a while. Chris Collinsworth said it last week on, hey, we would take the Cowboys 17 weeks out of the year. I mean, that's what Chris Collinsworth said last week. Now, here's what Mike Greenberg, though, said last week. And I thought he hit the nail. Well, this is a grand slam. This is 100% accurate. And he talks about, why Dak is criticized more than anyone.
I have such a difficult time because I recognize that our show is part of the, oh my God, we talk so much about Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. We do. I mean, we just do because it is an endlessly interesting topic. And we do not scrutinize every quarterback in the NFL the way we do him. If we scrutinized every pass and every play that Kirk Cousins makes in the same way that we do Dak Prescott, then we would have a very different view of him, perhaps.
Mic drop. Done. Mike Greenberg led ESPN radio for 20 years, Morning Drive with Golick. Now he's on the show Get Up and also has a radio show and podcast. But y'all know he hosts the NFL Draft. I mean, he does a bunch of stuff for ESPN. He's a Jets fan. He's from New York. He has no dog in the hunt, and he absolutely nailed it. Jason, didn't you think so?
Yeah, I mean, in the Kirk Cousins comparison, absolutely perfect, because even as a Vikings fan, he's not an interesting guy. Kirk is not like a staple of NFL whatsoever. So
I mean, Dan, you could go on and on about a large number of QBs that aren't interesting.
Yeah.
But why does Get Up and Good Morning Football? I mean, we do a lot of Dak Prescott. We do a lot of Cowboys stuff, right? I mean, obviously he's tied here. But why do they do it on a national level? It drives eyeballs.
Yeah. I mean, they're called America's team, are they not?
And everybody else loves to hate them. And I get it. I mean, they haven't been to an NFC championship game since 96 or 97. Since that time, the New York Jets have been to a championship game. The Jaguars have been to a championship game. The Saints have been to 3 and won a Super Bowl. I mean, these are not teams that are perennial winners.
No.
Since the NFL took off in the 1960s. So I thought that Mike Greenberg absolutely nailed it in his comments as far as, hey, the reason why we lead with Dak is eyeballs, ears, impressions, downloads, views, Dallas. And if we can critique him, I mean, even on weeks where he does really well, people will lead with the 3 passes that weren't. Nobody else gets home, not even Teflon. You could go any number. I mean, Justin Herbert, nobody cares.
Yeah.
I mean, they're out in L.A. There's just a long list of guys that Matthew Stafford doesn't drive the train.
Not at all.
And he's a Super Bowl winner.
Nobody really talks about Kyler Murray.
No, well, he's now, you see what's going on there.
Yeah.
They're in the process of moving off. Remember that was the buzz for years. Kyler was better than Dak. He had to be. Why? Because he played it at a bigger college football program.
Right.
Okay. Again, what makes guys dumb? Women in sports, right? I mean, it's a daily sports cars. It's a daily basis, right? I mean, you could throw in money, but women in sports. So we lose all sense of thinking and IQ. But I thought that was a good drop by Greenberg. Now I want the Chris Collinsworth. Speaking of Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. Don't they open up with the New York Giants? Yeah. New York Giants, Brian Daboll, Daniel Jones. Did y'all know that David Cutcliffe coached Daniel Jones? I'm just kidding. Chris Collinsworth, long Florida Gator, Cincinnati Bengal, longtime NBC broadcaster. This is what Chris Collinsworth with NBC had to say about them Dallas Cowboys.
If NBC had their choice, we would do 17 Dallas Cowboys games, right? I'm not kidding.
No, I know.
Doesn't even matter what the record is. It doesn't matter. They could be 4-6. We would take. Okay, you guys can pick any game you want this week. We'll take the Dallas Cowboys. It's insanity, but it's true. They draw the ratings. They get it done. I think they're still an intriguing team. I mean, we've got them on opening night. I mean, every opening night, we want the Dallas Cowboys if we can get them. If NBC had their...
Yeah, there you go. They have them opening night. What do you think those ratings are going to be? Insanity, baby. Dallas versus New York. New York had a bounce back year last year.
Danny Dimes. He's coming. He's coming for you.
I think the kid's got a chance to be a nice player.
Yeah.
I think Dayball makes him, and this is what you're supposed to do as a coach, right? Makes him a much better player. Did you see the Dave Bartu drop over the weekend, Jason? Bartu did about, 11 or 12 minutes on YouTube on Mike McCarthy as an NFL offensive coordinator. And he's obviously Dak Prescott's head coach, but he's going to be calling the plays. And I think he took 18 seasons of McCarthy calling plays. And out of the 168 offensive coordinators since 2000, Jason, McCarthy ranked 11th. So that's strong.
Wow.
Hopefully McCarthy will let Dak run it. We'll tailor it around Dak. and what he likes and so on. But but the bottom line is McCarthy ranks really, really. Look, even at the Saints. Remember how boring you were young. You may not even been bored. But 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2000. I mean, before Sean and Drew got there. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Saints were boring. It was Aaron Brooks, just not fun to watch. But McCarthy was their coordinator and basically put together some really good years. And then, of course, he went out to San Francisco, made them slightly better, and went on to Green Bay, Jason, where he and Aaron did some good things together. So Bartu likes his numbers, and that's a good thing. If you're rooting, I know you're rooting against Dak, and there's a lot of people listening that are rooting against Dak.
I'm not.
Because most people, but it is the team that people love to hate in the NFL.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The Dallas Cowboys.
100%.
I don't think people necessarily hate Dak, but they enjoy. Yeah, because I don't think that word's really strong. I don't think people hate Dak. They just dislike Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, which in turn allows them to criticize Dak.
Right.
At a level that no other quarterback is scrutinized. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, now that Tom Brady's out of the league, who is the quarterback that people love to hate.
Even though he doesn't have a champion. Well, Dallas / and again, this isn't on Dak because when you say they haven't been to an NFC championship game since 96 or 7, that's on the franchise, right? That tells you they've gone 26 years and made bad decisions. All right. Steven wants to hear the Mike Greenberg clip again. So this is Greeny, ESPN Radio forever. Get up. You see him, NFL draft and so on. Mike Greenberg talking about how Dak is criticized more than anyone.
I have such a difficult time because I recognize that we are part of, our show is part of the, oh my God, we talk so much about Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. We do. I mean, we just do because it is an endlessly interesting topic. And we do not scrutinize every quarterback in the NFL the way we do him. If we scrutinized every pass and every play that Kirk Cousins makes in the same way that we do Dak Prescott, then we would have a very different view of him, perhaps.
Okay. That was Mike Greenberg on Get Up.
I mean, look at Stephen A. Smith, one of the biggest ESPN guys that there is.
Yeah.
He loves, anytime the Cowboys lose, his routine is come in with a cowboy hat,
yeah,
smoking a cigar,
yeah,
and laughing about it.
Because he knows that draws the most views and impressions.
It does.
Sure.
I mean, and every time I see a clip of it on Twitter, on Instagram, of whatever, especially when Michael Irvin's in the studio. You guarantee that.
Oh, now that Michael's joining the show?
Right, exactly.
Did they let him out of his contract? I read an article last week, but I wasn't sure exactly how that was all going to line up.
Well, no, so it's Shannon Sharp is joining First Take, and Michael Irvin is joining.
He's going back to the Fox one.
Yeah, he's going to Undisputed.
Yeah. They weren't sure, though. They kind of kept him in limbo for about, 7 weeks?
Yeah.
8 weeks there?
There was a lot of battle.
I found it hard to believe, though, that they were going to move off of him because he's so tight with Rich Eisen. And so, yeah, that's a good point. I don't know how that show's going to I don't watch those shows, but so I don't guess it matters for me. All right. So I'm moving on. The Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, is brought to you by Core Cryotherapy and Wellness. So I was at Core on Thursday or Friday, I can't remember. Core Cryotherapy and Wellness in the township. And how about this? High school parents. I'm talking to a lot of high school parents this morning, driving in. And you have sons and daughters that play sports and they're very, very active. And what is the key component to optimal performance? Jason knows this too. He works out a lot. Recovery. So what does Core Cryotherapy and Wellness offer? Recovery for athletes. I mean, they have all kinds of options for your student athlete. And I mean, they've got whole teams coming in there.
Yeah.
To take advantage of what Core Cryotherapy and Wellness offer. So, you're practicing at least 5 days a week. You're playing 1 day a week. Some of you are doing, Wendy and I were going through Canes on Sunday, and I saw a bunch of travel ball baseball players. You know, you're playing 5 games over the weekend. What is the key to athletic performance? Recovery, recovery, recovery. I'll never forget Laquan Treadwell dropping cryotherapy in 2014. And I thought, what is that? And I need to know more. So what is happening is, you know, high school teams from, you know, sports, all different kinds of sports, tennis, soccer, baseball, football, basketball, are leveraging what core cryotherapy and wellness have to offer, because it's all about recovery. Because your body's got, even at 15, 16, 17, 18, your body's got to bounce back, or you really can't perform at optimal level. That's what core cryotherapy and wellness offers in the township right across from Sombra.
Yeah, I mean, your cardiovascular health, especially, so when you get in cryotherapy at that cold of temperatures, and then your body starts to regulate its temperature again, your health shoots through the roof. It's like getting an oil change.
Yes.
It's basically, you're just making sure that you stay as consistent as possible when it comes to taking care of yourself. You know, and Nick Fulton was in there a little while ago. He said that somebody was in the lobby and says that Bo Bounds talks about it enough on the radio that I got to come try it out.
Oh, okay.
So he went in there and he gave it a shot and said that he loved it.
I love it. I love it. Well, I went there. I did their red light therapy.
Okay.
And I'm going to continue on with that. But there's cryotherapy. There's so many cryoskin. There's so many different things that they're doing. The compression things for your legs, which I've done a couple of times. But if you want to work out, you want to recover. But if you have young athletes that are going 90 miles per hour, core cryotherapy and wellness in the township. Do I have time for? Yeah, I do. We've got a little more audio this morning, and I want to drop the Hugh Freeze, Jason. Freeze was asked about Michael Orr and the Tuohys over the weekend as the Auburn football coach. If you remember, Freeze was the lead recruiter on Michael Orr under who? Ed Ogeron. That was when the Ogre, Eddie O, was the head football coach at Ole Miss. This is Freeze talking Michael Orr.
I love Michael Orr. He's like part of our family, and I love the Tuohys, and I think it's sad, and I certainly don't claim to understand all the ins and outs of adoption, conservatory, all of that, but I know what I witnessed, and I witnessed a family that totally took in a young man, and I think without that there is no story.
All right. So that was Hugh Freeze talking about the Tuohys and Michael Orr. So you decide for yourself. Now that thing has now really almost gone away, Jason. What happens? Games in the season allow stories like that to go away. So there you go. Also, again, the Dallas Cowboys traded for Trey Lance, gave up a 4th-round pick, way too much for Trey Lance. And they let Will Grier go, who's better than Trey Lance. But that's the Cowboys being the Cowboys. We got to hope that they can overcome some of the things that Jerry and Steven and others do and make another run at the playoffs.
What'd you think about Dak with a clipboard and a headset on?
Well, he called the plays.
Yeah.
They were unbelievable. I'm not surprised. I mean, the guy, really anything he's ever done, he's been good at. Jason. I mean, he's just one of those guys. So he decides to, I don't know how often that happens, but because it may happen, but you notice it happened and everybody knew about it. Why? It goes back to what we were just discussing.
It's the Cowboys.
Because it was the Cowboys.
Yeah.
You know, if Matthew Stafford calls plays for the Rams, nobody cares, even though they've won a championship since the Cowboys have. But hey, man, he was on fire, and so was Will Grier. And then they let him go to add Trey Lance to the roster. So the cuts are made, everybody's ready to roll, and we'll be getting to the 53-man roster. And I plan on winning my fantasy football league this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're going ahead and putting it down?
I think it's time. I've been on a drought now for a while. I won it years ago in the 2000s, but it's been too long. I don't remember what year it was. I wonder if anybody's even kept up with who's won it the last. Do y'all keep up with it pretty good?
We've only done it for a couple years, so it's kind of easy to remember. But your agent still haven't talked to my agents about running your team, so we'll get our people together and see what we can figure out contract wise and everything. I'm an excellent game manager.
Oh, okay. All right, the Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your car and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Also, Ole Miss will host Mercer this weekend. That game will be over in the first quarter. Mississippi State will host Southeast Louisiana, and that game will be over early, too. Y'all know what the games of the week are. Florida at Utah Thursday night. LSU and Florida State and Orlando on Sunday. Maybe a little North Carolina, South Carolina. And maybe we'll get a couple other good games. Minnesota and Nebraska. But it's the Seminoles and the Tigers, LSU and Florida State. But it's here. Week 1, college football kicks off on Thursday. Florida Gators at Utah. Good morning. Welcome in. Steve Robertson at 8:30.